All right, Scott Bass, good morning. May 13th. We've got Colby Plus and Real Water Sports with us today.
Well, gosh, our some of our favorite helpers and sponsors and partners, and we have a lot of synergy with these two. Of course, the incredible Green Wave Yamamoto. Is that what they call them? Green Wave? Yeah,
That's what they call them.
the Green Wave. I have one. Speaking of the Colby Plus Yamamoto Green Wave full suits, which we use a lot of superlatives, perhaps some hyperbole on occasion. These wetsuits are insanely killer. And you know what? This upcoming winter season is going to be a season to have a killer wetsuit.
I was just thinking, as you said, partners, synergy. We're fortunate in that we get to, I mean, we're friends with people who are super cool, who have started cool businesses basically and are living out their passions, you know? Rob at Colby was president at Quicksilver back in the day and used a bunch of obviously his contacts and industry relationships. And that's how Colby became to be. But it's a great company making great products completely under his own, direction and interests. Surfs all the time. And so, what a cool business. And the same thing with Trip at Real Water Sports. We went out there a few years ago and spent time with him. And it's like hotel on the property, restaurant on the property, a bunch of people in the community that work in his place. It's a killer, killer lifestyle and business. So, I feel fortunate just to be partnered with him.
Totally agree. We are sort of, adjacent to industry movers and shakers, and we're blessed by that because they've become our friends, not just our partners, but meaningful relationships. So it's wonderful. And Trip, of course, the guy with the goofy foot with the Tom Curran bottom turn. I mean, come on.
Just go to realwatersports.com, look at the homepage, and you'll see it right there. And the other thing is we're using the products, it's like these are our friends, these are our products that we use regularly. So happy to be able to share them. I know you were talking about winter with those suits, but you can actually find, as we're in spring going into summer, on colbyplus.com, there's actually a bunch of spring suits on their clearance section. Obviously, the new stuff like the Green Wave, you can get at its regular price. But if you look at last year's, or if you want last year's model, go to the clearance section. I think it's called Final Sale. And there's short sleeves, short sleeve fulls, long sleeve springs, and jackets. 2 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter, a couple of different options going into spring for basically $100 each. So super good price.
Well, yeah. Do yourself a favor. Look, you know, we're getting a little bit pinched with the affordability economic situation. And so now's a good time to get a good deal.
Totally. Best
Yeah.
time ever to get a good deal. Also, final thought. We talked about the Score Lord last week from Pyzel. Pulled up some footage if you want to watch. Our boy Joel Centeo and Love Hodel riding the Score Lord on the North Shore. So, speaking of people who have carved out a cool lifestyle, Joel Centeo.
What's he up to?
He's got a farm on Oahu up like in Haleiwa.
Oh, cool.
He's got a really cool farm with his family. So yeah, this is the Score Lord. Obviously, this is the board that Pyzel has been riding the last 3 years and really kind of refining. And as he's been doing that, he's getting people asking what it is. So he finally decided to make a model. And really, the design is aging rippers. Like Joel Centeo and Love Hodel are a great example of that. Guys who are performing at the top level on high performance shortboards, but are now older, weigh a little bit more, and they just need a board that can still rip, but also allows the forgiveness, a little bit more grace, and a little bit more foam. So you got the Score Lord.
Well, I mean, this board is really fascinating, right? A couple reasons. The videos that I see of people are super relatable. They
Yeah.
have a video on their website because I'll be frank, I have been looking at this board, man. This board, there's something about this board. Also, the name, like regarding marketing, like Scorelord is just a wonderful name for a model of a surfboard. And then when you read about it and you find out the wide point's a little bit further up, a couple inches up from center. It's a little wide. It kind of checks all the boxes for me and for you. I mean, I can't speak for you, but this is the outline of surfboard that I learned to surf on. An old the 70 single fins were wide point forward with a little narrower tail. And I don't know. I I'm very intrigued by this board. I can't lie. I will tell you that I have scoured Pyzel's website, and I'm I just don't need another surfboard.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
but this thing looks so good,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Those guys are ripping on it. So, anyways, Pyzel, you're familiar with the man himself, but they're available on realwatersports.com. They have a 1,500 surfboard inventory, and they work with a lot of shapers, and they'll get, a drop of boards. And so the Scorelord's the latest to arrive. And it looks like there's 16 left. So I think last week when we talked about it, there was 27 left in a variety of sizes. There's currently 16 left between 5'6" and 8'6". And again, they do flat rate shipping and they've figured out how to ship surfboards for relatively cheap, and it's a flat rate. So go to realwatersports.com to check it out.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing right.
yeah, guy, David. It is Spit. This is the Spit Podcast. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass, and we're talking all things surf with you on this Wednesday, May 13th. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Scott. Good to see you. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to be vertical. That Scorelord, I would get the 6'2". I think it's basically 2 5/8 thick, which is my thickness. The 6'2", I think, is right around 36 liters. I've done some checking. This board looks really great. And I mean, but the thing about Real Water Sports, I was also very close to pulling the trigger on a Maurice Cole Twinser 2 weeks ago. So when you go through and you start looking at their board selection, it's amazing.
I, in the intro to the show, played the video with Love Hodel and Joel Centeo. But Pyzel on his YouTube channel also has a video of Parker Cohen, young guy, Southern California, riding the board,
Yes.
regular footer, absolutely shredding it at a higher level, like a pointy thruster, basically.
Yeah,
so
that's the video that made me go, okay,
yeah,
I can do bottom turns, and this board looks like it does good bottom turns.
and then blows the back out too. So
Yeah,
versatility for sure.
yeah. Well, I don't know how we got. We were geeking out on surfboards, which makes sense. But I have a Who Said That. If you would like to perhaps answer correctly and/or get stumped, I have one that sort of speaks to the coming week ahead of us.
So New Zealand, perhaps related.
Ooh, wow. Okay, you ready for this?
I am ready to lose.
Okay, so listeners, this is where I attempt to stump David and you by providing a quote from a famous surfer, and then you trying to guess which surfer it is. So, David, and I quote, who said that? We used to go to the dive shop and buy sheets of rubber and make our own booties and gloves. We'd wear rugby jerseys in the water and think they were keeping us warmer. It was tough. Who said that, David? Was it A, Alan Byrne, B, Ian Buchanan, C, Shane Horan, or D, Phil Byrne?
I'm going to go with Alan Byrne.
You're incorrect. Although Alan is a Kiwi, he's from New Zealand. The correct response is pro surfer Ian Buchanan, who was a sort of a legendary Kiwi guy who was on the world tour for years and did really well. 5 world tour career. He was on the world tour career was 5 years long, is what I should say. He did make it to the quarterfinals, but in his home country of New Zealand, he was basically unstoppable, unbeatable, and national titles, one after the other. 5 straight national titles for Ian Buchanan. So, guy was a great surfer, still is. Actually won the Masters, the World Surf League's Masters a while ago. And yeah, Ian Buchanan.
Where did you get this quote?
I got this quote from the Encyclopedia of Surfing, Matt Warshaw's Encyclopedia of Surfing, which is a never-ending supply of research information about surfing history.
So, Stab Magazine just posted an article, I think yesterday, kind of a warm-up to the, or an introduction, I guess, maybe to New Zealand. It's called Welcome to Raglan, and it's a preview of the New Zealand Pro. It's a 9-minute read, and I didn't realize how much history New Zealand had with the World Tour. It opens by saying that the very first IPS event was held in New Zealand's North Island in 1976. It was a 6-man final, which included 2 New Zealanders, Chris Rainsley and legendary shaper Al Byrne, which is why I picked Al as the answer to your question. So I was like, oh, you got to be referencing this event, you know? But as I'm skimming the article now, they don't have that quote from Ian Buchanan, but it does provide a lot of great context of the area and professional surfing going on in New Zealand for the last 50 years as we lead into this event for anybody who's interested.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun read and good insight. And why wouldn't we read that and catch up on our New Zealand history? And so that's interesting. The very first IPS event in 76, which counted towards the 77 World Tour.
I guess so.
Is that right or no? No, it's 76 was the first world title. PT won the 76 world title. So because this is the 50th anniversary of pro surfing, as we know it, world and international tour. And wow, so that was the first. What was it called?
So it says just a few hours north of Raglan on the west coast of New Zealand's North Island held the very first IPS in 1976.
Yeah. What was the event called?
It doesn't say. It says the 6-man final. Oh, AMCO Pro. The AMCO Pro. It says people don't know much about this event as it disappeared into mid-70s surf culture. No competitor merch, no Super 8 film, no surviving programs. The official AMCO Pro draw sheet, much like New Zealand's founding documentation, was likely neglected and eaten by rodents.
Well, I did a search for AMCO Pro on the Encyclopedia of Surfing, and nothing came up. But maybe there's something there for Matt to do, some work, some research for them to do about that. Because you would think, so this was the first event of the first year of the World Tour. That seems like a pretty big deal.
It says held the very first IPS in 1976. It doesn't say very first IPS contest, doesn't say the word event. So I presume it says the very first IPS. So anyways, Joel Clegg wrote this article on Stab, and I'd never heard of it before. I was surprised to hear New Zealand, but cool. They got good waves. We know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, that's coming up. I was going to do, and I guess I could do a quick look at the surf report. Do you have any sense of what's going to happen here? And I think because they're a day ahead of us, tomorrow they could run.
It's going to be small. The forecast is slated to be small. I don't think there's anything significant on the horizon, which is a bummer. I've been watching some of the free surf footage. There's on YouTube. There's stuff floating around, all the pros in town, so you can kind of gauge where people are at and how they're surfing the wave. But it's been head high, so I don't think that what we're going to see in the event will be reflected in the free surfs. But I've now seen more of the wave in the last week than I had ever seen in my lifetime prior. And I got to be honest, it's not, there's a lot of soft spots on the wave. Like it seems kind of difficult to find a critical section. The regular footers, even the best regular footers, like, Jack Robinson, Ethan Ewing, just look very repetitive on the wave. It's just kind of carving snap after carving snap after carving snap. There's no section for them to necessarily like blow out or do anything radical on. The goofy footers, on the other hand, I think have a little bit more advantage, especially the goofy footers who are very diverse, who have like a diverse skill set of maneuvers that they could pull off. Gabriel Medina, Italo, it's like they can find that little bit of a lip, fling a big layback or do a big air, land in the flats, and still continue to. Then they do a couple of soft cutbacks on that section that I'm talking about. But again, that's a head high wave. Once it gets small, it's going to narrow the.
Brings Italo even more into the equation.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it's funny. I picked my team yesterday. And I was sort of basing it on, I thought that this wave wasn't necessarily, can-do left. You know what I mean? Like, and I based that on, you would think that there would be a lot more footage of guys standing in huge gaping barrels if in fact Raglan was that situation. But I think it's just, if you're a middling goofy footer, it's a super fun wave to surf, but it's not necessarily macaronis.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think there is a section that barrels. There's a couple of clips that I've seen where guys are getting barreled, but it's a section. And then the rest of the wave looks kind of soft. Yeah. And so I think your point of fair to middling goofy footer, you'll get a super long ride and do a bunch of carves that feel great.
Yeah.
But from a viewer standpoint, for a CT level event, I don't think we're going to see radical surfing.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I guess the kind of good news is on the very last day of the waiting period, it picks up. It's 4 to 6 feet plus on Monday, the 25th of May, which is the last day of the waiting period. And tomorrow it's 4 to 5 feet, but fading. And then you're right, there's like an 8 or 9 day run of 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 2 to 3. So that's a little bit unfortunate. So I guess what you're suggesting is find the sprightly fleet of foot goofy foots that also have experience, because you're going to have to adapt. And I don't mean experience at this spot. I mean competitive experience up against top. Like I think you will see veterans that can do well in small surf do well here. I think Italo and Gabe are top picks.
Yeah, Italo, for sure, Gabe. I mean, if you look at the free surfs, Gabe just looks like unstoppable. But I do agree with you. Once it gets smaller, then Italo factors in. I would also consider Iago Dora.
Yes, but you can only pick 2 from that first group. And I think I did pick Iago, actually. I did. I picked Gabe and Iago because I feel like Iago needs a bit of a bounce back.
Does he? I thought he did well.
For a world champion, I don't recall, it's not, I mean, I wouldn't say he's been doing bad, but I don't think are you looking at the rankings here?
Yeah, I'll pull up the rankings.
I've got my rankings too. Let's see. Men's.
He's in 6th position.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah, this is an event. Again, I'm focused on goofy footers for this event just because everything I've seen from the regular footers looks so repetitious.
Yeah.
But then again, a Connor O'Leary, let's say, who's having an incredible year, I don't feel like has the same diverse bag of tricks that an Italo or a Gabriel does. So even though he's goofy foot, I would probably shy away because I want to be able to see somebody who can like fling a full rote on a 1 foot wave,
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. So, well,
anyways, on the women's side, I'm still in Survival League on the women's side.
Oh, good for you.
I think the no-brainer would be Erin Brooks.
Yes, I would agree with that.
She's not really having as great of a year as we expected from her. She's actually coming off of 2 9ths and then a last place at the last event, which is shocking, but I think she lost to Stephanie Gilmore, so that's understandable. But I think this is a lock. This event, this style of wave is a lock for her. So despite her poor performances, I'm still putting money on her.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Erin, so I'm with you on that. And she's got game. I mean, for sure, you could see her doing airs even.
Yeah, exactly.
On that one moment.
So I don't know. This is kind of transitioning away from the CT event, but Have you seen, I'm sure you haven't seen, but maybe you've seen it promoted, the new Redbull girls film called Nowadays?
You know what I saw? I saw the on the Stab podcast that they do with what's that guy's name?
Damien Farrenfoot.
Yeah, Damien. Yeah, that guy. I, I've seen. I saw a little clip of him and Jordy, and he was asking Jordy who he thought was, who was his favorite, basically his favorite young tops female surfer. So that's about what I know of this Red Bull thing that you speak of.
So I've watched, I'm about halfway through. It's like 45 minutes. It's available on YouTube, Red Bull's YouTube channel. I gotta say, I don't know the impact that a 45-minute surf film has nowadays as compared to when I was growing up, where it was highly impactful and it influenced everybody and everything. But if it still does have significant impact, I think that this is the equivalent of Taylor Steele's Momentum Generation or Kai Neville's Modern Collective. It is spectacularly good.
That's amazing.
It's like a real, we've talked about this big shift happening on the women's side, especially for this young crop, but it's all coalesced in this film. So there's been individual performances that you could point at, or like a section over here and a different one 6 months later over there. This is a really tight package, really, really well made. And it's undeniable. Like the surfing, they're surfing like big Puerto Escondido, pulling into these absolute monsters. Then they're doing massive airs at Macaronis. Erin Brooks doing multiple airs on a wave and like really progressive airs.
Yeah.
But when I say it's going to be as influential as those other two films, what I mean to say is like, yes, the surfing is progressive, but also it just looks so fun and so cool. Like in a way that I don't feel content has in a while. These are happy, healthy, fit, young girls playing in the ocean, traveling the world. It's just, and they're, by the way, pushing the boundaries of a sport. And so that's the way that I interpreted or that I felt about Momentum Generation when I saw it was my life's kind of boring. And I look at this and I'm like, these guys are fit, fun, having a blast on the road, seeing the whole world, and then pushing the boundaries of a sport. And then those guys in Modern Collective did it to another level 15 years later. That's exactly how I view this. I'm too young to like look up to these, or I'm too old to look up to these girls. But what I could see is that generation right behind them,
Yes.
absolutely like getting thrilled in the way that I did from this film. So I think that the impact, again, if this 45-minute format still has impact, I think that the influence will reverberate beyond measure into this next generation. And it's just going to be a game changer.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I agree with you that probably the impact we will not have seen it for another 5 years, if it is what you say it is. I do question whether a 45-minute movie has that power, just based in the algorithmic world that we live, where the short video rules, the 2-minute thing, or even less. And but surfing is such a powerful draw that the people that are like, you know what, I don't care, even though my algorithm wants to shoot me 2-minute video clips, as a young, say, 12-year-old surfer on the rise, I want to sit down for all 45 minutes of this because these are my heroes. These young women are my heroes. And surfing does have that pull, where I'm going to get engaged here. And so if it does have that, I would agree with you that I love the way you said that, because when we watched Momentum, or when you watched Modern Collective, we felt like this was us. We felt such a connection. It wasn't just the surfing. It felt like, okay, I'm going to go get on my suit and wax my board, and I'm going to go express myself in that momentum way,
Yeah.
And I think that the power of that, I don't think we're going to know about it for quite a few years, but I do think it's powerful. I think you nailed it. And I'm looking forward to watching it just because of that. Like, we want to see, things that are moving the needle culturally within the sport and lifestyle of surfing.
Yeah, again, it looks cool and it looks fun. These are like young, fit, healthy people playing in the ocean, having a blast. And it's just like, oh, and they're pushing the boundaries of the sport. So
Yeah,
that's the inspiration.
that was the next thing I was gonna say is that it's not like, and by the way, no shade on this, but it's not like, you know, healthy young women on longboards in mainland Mexico grooving around and cruising around and
Yeah.
drinking, smoothies or whatever. Like this is like the highest impact, most progressive surfing that the women's category is doing, and frankly, way better than 99.9% of the men in the world that own surfboards, myself included.
No question about that. Yeah. The surfing is undeniable at this point. It's so progressive. But the 45-minute, whether or not that has impact, they're also because it's Redbull Media House, they're also very good at then pulling these clips and sprinkling them everywhere else, and even getting Jordy to talk about it because he's a Red Bull athlete. So then you see that, So the tentacles are long and varied, and the footage gets out there no matter what. But I feel doesn't showcase the other elements that we're talking about it unless you watch it in the full package. Like the progressiveness of the surfing translates in the single clip on Instagram, but that lifestyle aspect you don't see unless you watch the whole thing. These girls having a blast together on a boat trip in Indo, getting on a plane, going to Mexico, that's the part
Interesting,
that
right? It's weird. What is that sort of stickiness that a long format movie? It provides an aesthetic that pulls at your heartstrings in a way that a short 2-minute clip couldn't. And it's hard to identify what, obviously the filmmaker has a big chunk of why it's so engaging to you, and you as a film critic, so to speak, can speak to this.
I think that the doom scrolling, if you're encountering the clip on the doom scroll, you're never invested in the clip. You're still kind of in your world, just going through and just getting a little tidbit.
Yeah, you're like in a dopamine scroll, and you're not
you're not
you. You're not really you.
Yeah, exactly. And so so there's just less impact. But once you put the phone down and sit and go into the world that the filmmaker created, I think that allows you to immerse yourself in it in a different way that does definitely influence and impact you more.
Well, I look forward to checking this out. I'm glad that you brought this to, brought this out into the light here of the Spit podcast so our listeners can engage, because I think it's cool.
Well, I brought it up because I don't think I mentioned it, but Erin Brooks is in the film. So we were talking about
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Erin.
Yeah, she's really my question to you about this film is who's the oldest surfer in it?
Caroline Marks.
So no Lakey.
No Lakey.
Yeah,
By the way, Lakey, I don't know if she's on Redbull anymore or if she even was, but she is on drinkag1.com/surf, and that I can get behind.
You know what? They need a YouTube channel. They could feature you and I. I'm trying to
Well, look,
I don't know what we'd be trying to do, but it wouldn't be good.
Look, I mean, as great as Red Bull is for investing in surfing and providing content like this and giving these athletes real substantial careers, I wouldn't drink it. I wouldn't put it in my body. And honestly, I can say, honestly, I've never drunk a full can of Red Bull. I think
God, that's amazing.
I've had a sip of it here and there. And I don't even know why I would have had a sip of it other than I think I've had it in a cocktail once,
Yeah.
but I've never had a full can of Red Bull. And on the other hand, I drink drinkag1.com/surf every single day and night too, by the way.
I'm a huge fan, obviously, of AG1, and I do drink it. It's part of my routine. And, but I will raise my hand and say that I have partaken of the Red Bull drink on occasion.
Do you like it?
It's purely a what's the word I'm looking for? It's purely to get me over the hump. I don't like the taste. To me, it's almost like medicine. I just go, okay, yeah. And I just down it as quick as I can. I'll drink the 0 sugar one, because I don't want the sugar. I don't buy it. you know. But actually,
Yeah.
I guess I do buy it when I drink it, but I
Yeah.
don't like. It's not in my refrigerator or anything like that. Not
Well,
like
back
which the AG1 isn't. By the way, store your AG1 in the refrigerator.
that's what it says to do. Yeah. It took me a year or two to figure that one out. By the way, so I mentioned Caroline Marks, Erin Brooks, and then Caitlin Simmers, I probably didn't mention, is in it. But then we also have Sky Brown and Sierra Kerr, who we don't see, in the contest circuit that you and I are constantly talking about. So it's great to see them there. And then also Molly Picklum is in the film. And what I think I appreciated a lot about this is the diversity of personalities. Like they are each very distinct style of surfers. And I can't even pick. Like the question to Jordy about who is his favorite, I couldn't pick. Like when I watch Caitlin, she's my favorite, and then it cuts to Sky Brown. And I'm like, well, Sky Brown's kind of insane. She's also my favorite. So yeah,
Molly Picklum do airs.
yes,
I was thinking, wouldn't it be this? I got to thinking about Stab High recently, and I was thinking, man, why don't they take some of the best WSL aerialists and pit them against these, Joel Vaughn's brother or whoever the young hot ripper aerialist guy is. Now, this is making me think of the women. If you just grab those 5 or 6 women and put them in Stab High, it'd be pretty interesting.
yeah, I would imagine they get the invite.
Yeah.
I would. There's no reason that Stab wouldn't include them. It'd be benefit for Stab. And
Well,
I know
Yeah.
they had Yago come to a previous event right after he won the world title.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the WSL stands on their athletes surfing in non-sanctioned WSL events, and I know that was a sticking point in the past. But man, boundaries are being broken in this regard, and I think it benefits the WSL as much as it would benefit Stab.
Yeah, totally. Well, speaking of the WSL,
Well,
some big business.
oh, okay. Let me
need to
take a
take-
quick break, and I'll come back, and you can talk WSL, and I have something that we'll chat about too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back.
Yes.
So yeah, WSL news. They sold Surf Ranch.
Wow.
Or they sold KS Waveco, I should say. So, quote, KS Waveco has recently been sold by its previous ownership group, which was WSL Holdings, to an LA-based real estate fund in partnership with Kelly Slater, end quote. So that sentence means Kelly Slater was part of the buyback. He sold to the WSL, and now he's part of the buyback, which is kind of interesting. Quote, this transaction positions KS Waveco to continue advancing its technology and wave systems, which remain a global benchmark for artificial wave innovation. KS Waveco and the WSL have been operating independently from each other for over a year, and so the sale does not impact the WSL's business or operations, end quote.
And is this like Michael Schwab's business group? Do you know? Does it say who they sold it to?
It does not.
Huh.
It does not. I don't know of Schwab's involvement in this. But
Okay, well, more will be revealed. My sense is that he and Kelly are pretty tight, and I know that Schwab did a development down in Cabo, and I don't know which technology he chose.
they were pitching the KS Waveco for that one.
Yeah.
And they previously had one out in La Quinta that got thwarted by the city. City didn't approve basically the permits.
Yeah.
But I think, do you have any thoughts on what this means for the WSL writ large?
I mean, it's probably an infusion of cash that's helpful. 2, hopefully it means they can eliminate the wave pool from their competition schedule. There's no more. They marketed that to the point that they sold it, so good for them. and those are my 2 big takeaways.
So, if I'm not mistaken, did this buying of KS Waveco happen during or before Eric Logan's reign?
I couldn't tell you.
I think it might have happened a little bit before. I feel like this might have been Sophie Goldschmidt. But my general thought is actually could be one of two things. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. So if
This is life, my friend. That's life in a nutshell.
well, I don't have the information to identify which one it is, but I'm speculating. So if it would be a bad thing if the WSL bought this, it never executed their ambitions for it, which I think we can actually say pretty definitively. Like their goal was buy the tech and then license out the tech to people. We've only seen one pool built in the time that they've owned the tech, and that's the Abu Dhabi pool. The Austin Surf Club, formerly a Wave Garden pool that was owned by Doug Coors, actually has stopped. I don't know if you saw this news story, but they actually stopped construction recently due to vendors not getting paid. There's like $4 million of vendors' unpaid bills.
I did see that, but I thought underneath that was a restructuring of the loans so that they could get paid and then move forward aggressively. That was the sense that I got. But
Good for them. Let's hope they pull it off. All I know is that doesn't exactly speak to their solvency or their, success. So the point is they've had this thing for, let's say, 8, close to 10 years. WSL made the purchase, had this thing. I think their stated ambition was, let's put this thing on the world tour. And then it's going to blow up. We're going to sell a bunch of pools all around the world. They put it on the world tour. It did not blow up. And in fact, they've gotten nothing but blowback about keeping it on the world tour. And they're not selling pools. So now I think they got to the point where they're like, I think the writing's on the wall. Let's maybe offload this distressed asset. Kelly Slater and his group are like, we'll buy it back for cheaper than what you paid for it, basically. So that appears to be the move. So again, that's scenario A, which is not a great thing. Mm-hmm. Scenario B that I was saying could be a good thing is I think they got spread too thin in a bunch of directions that did not relate to putting the best surfers in the best waves in the world. So through the ELO era, and again, maybe it started before ELO, but definitely under the ELO reign, WSL Studios, we're going to make TV shows now. Spend a bunch of money on that stuff. We're going to have the Big Wave World Tour. We're going to have the Longboard World Tour. We're going to have all these different things. Air show. They did the air show thing for a minute. Like, it's spread too thin. You're not executing any of them at the highest level. So this shift, almost regardless of why they're doing it, even if they're doing it because it was a distressed asset, I think it allows them to kind of focus on the one thing that they should be focusing on all along, which is high performance, shredding, and determining who the best surfer is in the world, in the best waves in the world.
I don't think it's a distressed asset. I think they were making a lot of money on that thing. Wasn't it like $60,000 a day to rent that wave pool out in Lemoore and surf it?
That is the price, but that doesn't mean they're making a bunch of money on it.
Well, over 300, let's just say it's 300 days of the year they rent that thing out. That's $18 million a year. That's pretty good.
Why did you say, let's presume they rent it out 300 days a year? Do you know that?
I think they're pretty booked out. And if they're not, that's why I didn't do 365 days. I figured let's give them 65 days where they're not booked out.
Well, it is the desert inland and it gets cold. It's actually frigid for probably 3 of those months.
Okay, so let's cut it in half. Let's say 60,000 times. How many days do you think they rent it out?
I have no information.
I know, but off the top of your head, because you're good at, you have a suggestion that, there's some days they don't. So that would suggest you have a suggestion that there's some days they do.
Well, how many people are paying $60,000 to rent out a pool?
I think there's a lot.
200 people a year?
I don't know. Okay, let's lowball it. Let's say 100 days a year. 100 days a year.
Okay, that's fine.
$6 million.
We should have been able to do that math.
Huh?
We should have been able to do that math in our head.
No. I required
100 times 60,000. But here's my Okay, but
Yeah.
to answer your own question
Yeah.
about number of days that they rented out,
Yeah.
if it truly was that profitable, they would be selling pools.
Yeah. I mean, look, I agree with you that I don't think either you or I know. I'm not, and you could be right. Maybe it's just a huge distressed asset, and they're like, time to bail out. Let's sell this stock. It was a bad trade, and the smart person's going to get out while they still can.
Well,
Maybe that's the case. I was sort of under it's just me, my gut instinct that they were killing it as far as renting it out. But maybe that ship has sailed. Maybe it was really fun for a long time, and then everyone's already experienced it, and they're like, okay, well, no, I'll go to the Mentawais again.
there's also another thing happening, which is yes, that one might be profitable. This one in Lemoore, where the land is cheap and it is the first of its kind, and there is this novelty aspect.
And it's close to Silicon Valley, and Hollywood, which seemed to be where a lot of the clips were. You saw, like Prince Harry or whoever.
Yeah. But each successive one is going to have less demand than the first one did. And also, each successive one is going to be way more expensive to build because of where you're building them. You're building them in retail locations where, not the desert, not cow
Cabo.
country.
I don't know about Cabo, but I
So,
mean, it could be the case, David, that they've realized that this isn't a business like the other wave pools where the public's going to come in and pay per hour. This is actually a premium buy
yeah.
that needs to be marketed and built in a situation where there's a premium real estate development around it. And so if we're not going to license the thing, let's just sell the thing to the developer that's ready to, move it in that direction.
That's precisely the model that they have pursued. And I think the other thing that they're identifying probably is the footprint required and the amount of energy required to run this thing is probably better sold as a $4 million home times 40,
Yeah.
It's an expensive giant plot or a golf course even, you know what I mean? Like there's just other things to do with that imprint, that footprint. So the other thing back to whether or not it's distressed, the numbers that you came up with as revenue, I don't know if that even pays back the 10 years worth of R&D that it took to get to the point in 2015 that they opened it. This has been an investment for now 20 plus years. So there's a big hole that they're digging their way out of. And I think, again, the launching point was get this thing on tour, sell a bunch of pools. Just that selling the tech allows us to recoup a lot of the money without actually having any new overhead. And then those people are the ones who are responsible for the land development and everything that comes with it. And that has been very, very slow going. Again, there's been one pool built in that last 8 years. So I think that's where they expected maybe to have 10 pools built in 10 years or whatever it was, and they're just not hitting that. So, but if Kelly could buy it back with his group, again, cheaper than he sold it for, then he might still see an opportunity there.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt, and maybe you have a different opinion, but I don't think there's any doubt that of all the wave pools, that one is far and away the best experience as far as riding waves. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't surfed any of the new wave garden technologies. And maybe those ones are now equal to, as far as an end user experience, equal to the Kelly Slater wave pool. But it almost feels like a Ferrari situation where, like Ferrari is clearly the premium buy and they only sell a very limited number of vehicles. And they're number one in class. In fact, they're almost a class above. They're almost a category different than the other wave pool technologies.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy. I don't fully agree with your first statement, but I think that actually is a really good analogy where most people couldn't even drive the Ferrari the way that it needs to be driven. And even if you were put on a track, you still can't get the most out of that car. Whereas everybody on the planet can have fun at a go-kart track, bumping into each other and stuff. And then in between that, I'm sure you've seen on the 405 freeway going up to LA, there's the Porsche experience where they have this entire racetrack and various things that you can climb over if you want to get the Porsche, SUV. And it's open to the public, and you go in there and you pay a fee, and it's kind of expensive, but you get to drive a Porsche, a 911, and go all out and do burnouts and stuff. And so I think that's where you have like the Palm Springs Surf Club. That's the Porsche experience where you can do airs on that wave and you can get barreled and you get 15 waves in an hour and it's only $150 as opposed to the 50,000 or 60,000 a day.
Yeah. Well, the DSRT wave is about to open up. At least they say they're opening up in this summer, which in wave pool speak could mean next fall. Who knows? But that pool's much bigger than the Palm Springs one as far as the footprint. So we'll see.
Yep. Well, interesting times. I'm glad to not be an investor in any of these projects personally.
David, it's time for summertime reading. This book is called The Known World by Edward P. Jones. It's a fascinating book. Have I told you about this book?
You have.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. So this
No.
is the...
Go ahead.
This is the free blacks that own black slaves in pre-Civil War Virginia. Really very interesting book. The other book, North Woods, Daniel Mason. This book is about a plot of land and a structure, a home in northern Massachusetts, and it follows the different generations of people that inhabit this land and their experiences through this unique bit of land. And it's a very interesting book, and New York Times bestseller, and this one, winner of the Pulitzer Prize, The Known World. So The Known World in Northwoods, if you're looking for great reads this summer, I recommend both of those.
Fascinating. By the way, you did give a book recommendation about a month and a half ago, and when I was in Nicaragua, Brian Walker, who was on my trip, who was reading that book, and he was reading it because of your recommendation.
Oh, I wonder which book it was.
It was the Dan Brown. Is it called Origins?
Origins, yes.
Yeah.
Super fun book to read.
Yeah, I was walking. He was hanging out by the pool reading, and I was like, "Hey, I know that book." He goes, "Yeah, I heard you guys talking about it." And then I was at the airport, and it was there, and I was like, "I need something to read on this trip," so he bought it at the airport.
Well, Brian might be the most interesting surfer in the world.
Definitely in our group.
I mean, no, I think in the world. I think Brian might be the most interesting surfer in the world. He's got his own. Well, why don't you help kind of. My sense is that he's got his. He's found a very joyous place in his life regarding wave riding. And it's every time I see him, I sense that he's maximizing what's on offer for him, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's doing it right. And I tip of the cap to him.
He may have had the most fun out of anybody on our trip. On 3 of our trips, actually. He's been to El Salvador, Peru, and then Nicaragua now. So just to illuminate what we're talking about for the listeners, he brought a soft top and a hand plane, and I don't think he even brought a hard board. And the soft top, he only has 2 little side bite fins in it, and they're plywood and they're mismatched. And even the individual fin itself isn't really correctly foiled. Let's just say it's asymmetrical on its own. And I don't know if he made them himself or not, but they're mismatched and it doesn't matter. Like, it's just like it is so rudimentary. And his soft top is not a brand new soft top. It is beaten to crap. And he never stands up on it. He rides it kind of in a go-kart position, or sometimes he'll have like one leg cocked up, like so his knee is up, but the other leg is down. And he uses his hands on the rails to really get extra kind of, momentum or drive or something out of it. But he surfs it incredibly well. So like he'll pull into tubes, he'll take off late, he'll like intentionally side slip down to the bottom and then pull up the rail and like make sure the rail and the fin catches and then project out out of a bottom turn. He does carves, floats the end section. He's just having an absolute blast on the thing.
Yeah, he's riding waves in a fashion that is out of the ordinary. It's kind of got a real Greeno-esque sort of vibe to it. You know, when you think about what Greeno was doing in the early 60s and how the other surfers were like blown away when they saw Greeno. They're like, oh my God, I want to do what that guy's doing, you know? And Brian seems to he knows how to find the tube, that guy. He spends a lot of time in the barrel.
And doesn't bother any of us for waves. Like all of us riding hard boards, we're like trying to surf the same peak. He's like, see you guys later. And he goes down the beach. And then you see him getting 5 times the amount of waves, surfing them better. And you're just like, what the hell, dude? Like, or he'll take out the hand plane and get barreled, like, you know, talking about that, or his penchant for tubes. Or other times we'd rock up at the beach and the waves look like they're pumping. And we're like, where's Brian? He just went for a walk. Like he's down around the bend, like checking out like the tide pools. And then he comes back an hour later. He's like, yeah, I just decided to go for a walk instead. We're like, the waves are pumping. He's like, yeah, it's all right. I'll surf later, you know? So he's on his own program, but again, having more fun than any of us.
Yeah. Well, like I said, tip of the cap to him. And I know we're big fans of his and his approach. It's fascinating.
Absolutely. Huge fans. Good reminder just that, you know,
yeah,
get out of your ego, or get out of trying to compete, or trying to level up to whatever anybody else is doing, and just do what's fun. Do your own thing.
Yeah, he's not in the dominant paradigm. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
El Niño, David. El Niño. It's time that we speak about this. I know it's been on everyone's tongues lately. It's been kind of there's been talk. Mainstream media, of course, is picking it up. The simple version, I'm going to give you the simple version of El Niño for the listeners. Warm water moves east. The ocean evaporates like crazy because of the warm water. That warm evaporation feeds the atmosphere, and the atmosphere gets overloaded with moisture. It causes the jet stream to shift, and everybody's weather goes sideways. It typically peaks around December, which is how it got its name, El Niño, the Christ child in Spanish. And its effects can linger for 9 to 12 months before the system will then reset. Now, what we're hearing and what you've heard is this thing called the Super El Niño, right? And I bring this up today, David, because the models have gone from maybe we're going to have a Super El Niño to we're certain to have a Super El Niño. In March of this year, just a 22% chance of a Super El Niño. Just a few weeks ago, an 80% chance. And now the latest European model, by the way, is the model that most of the forecasters, the experts in the field, point to that one as the most capable model of projecting what could happen, forecasting what could happen. And it has moved 100% probability of Super El Niño forming by November. 100% probability. So what does all this mean, David? Well,
rain.
It means a lot. For surfers, it obviously means big storms, which means big waves. And you're right. California, the West is supposed to get a lot of rain. Peru and parts of South America are going to get inundated with flooding and rain. Indonesia and parts of Australia, droughts, drier than normal. For those on the East Coast, it means a slower than normal hurricane season. And but sort of my go-to on all of this is Mark Sponsler of stormsurf.com. And I highly recommend that if you're interested in the El Niño, that you go to his YouTube channel, stormsurf.com's YouTube channel, and take a peek. And he put out his most recent video, and I just want to share with you, David, a little bit of what Mark is talking about this Super El Niño and the 100% that the models anticipate it to happen. But I want to give this a bit of a caveat with Mark here, and I hope you can hear this. Let me know if you can hear this okay. I'm going to push play. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this okay.
They are just forecast models. First case in point, we are still in the spring unpredictability barrier, okay? The models have a very hard time sensing what is going on when you're in the spring unpredictability barrier because it's hard to predict in spring. You have to get, June 1st is when you're out of the barrier, okay? So next month's model will be the first taste of reality. And you know, for those European models, I would say it really isn't going to be till July 1 till we really have a sense from a model perspective what's going to happen.
So there you have it. He's saying, look, the models are just models. Things can change. By July 1, that 100% will be 120%, or it'll back down to maybe 75%. But all eyes are on big waves this season as this Super El Nino seems to be upon us.
So we're talking potential record-setting Mavericks, record Hawaii season.
All of that, just like big wave inundation, just Jaws, Mavericks, Totos, the Eddy, all of that stuff is before us. Not to mention for all of us, you know, everyday surfers, probably bigger surfboards and very challenging conditions. And frankly, it could also mean some scary situations. And unfortunately, some people may perish because of it. You know, there's a lot to take in when you talk about an El Nino, and you and I have lived through quite a few of them, and it's exciting, you know?
Yeah, start ordering the boards. Board shapers start ordering the blanks.
That's it.
Now's the time.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, by the way, that could affect the end of the CT. I mean, December is when the Pipe Masters starts, right? So they could benefit from this as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, like I said, I know El Nino's been out there. It's sort of a boring topic on some level, but I wanted to let people know that right now, literally this week, they went to 100% expectation of a super El Nino, which, by the way, just so you know, is higher than 2 degrees warmer water than average.
Okay.
And they're expecting 3.5 degrees, 2.1 degrees warmer than average is a super El Nino. And the models are going up to 3.5, 4 degrees warmer. Mark's sponsor's thinking, you know what, let's bring that down a little bit. Let's temper those models because they are just models, as he mentioned. By the way, could you hear that okay?
Yeah, I'll fix it in post. Send me the clip and then I can put like a fresh version in.
Okay. Will do.
I could hear it okay, but the volume would be low for listeners.
Okay.
So I lost my
That's
train.
what El Nino does. It just like dumbs you. It makes you like
I know what I was going to say.
You don't know what to say.
I was going to say, I want some sort of apology from meteorologists and forecasters. They are somebody who they do their job. They get the thing wrong more often than they get it right. And there's never an apology and there's never any sort of retribution. There's no sort of punishment for not doing their job great. They're saying 100% this is going to happen. They're giving themselves no grace period. And inevitably,
wait, you're wrong. Here's the actual terminology.
I know 100. The models are showing 100% right now, so they could blame the model.
100% probability.
Exactly. Yeah. All I'm saying is, I've never seen anybody do their job wrong more often than meteorologists, and I never receive an apology once.
Okay, well, you know what? Fair enough. Reach out to Mark. Talk to him.
I have a must-see moment presented by Treeswax.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have not seen this one yet because it just happened. Trees wax, of course, is petroleum-free surf wax, high-performance surf wax. Performs as good as your regular wax that you use, but there's no petroleum. It's made from rocks and trees. So you can get it at treeswax.com. You could use our promo code SPIT. You'll save 20% and get a money-back guarantee online. And my must-see moment is the latest offering from Neat Essentials. It's called Southern... what is it called? Southern Edge, I believe is what it's called. This is, of course, Torren Martyn surfing in Tasmania. I'm going to play you the clip.
Yeah.
Check it out. And then I'll read. While I'm playing the clip, I'm going to read for you. So you watch, I read. On their YouTube channel, they say surfer and adventurer Torren Martyn and his best friend and filmmaker Ishka Folkwell attempt to circumnavigate Tasmania in two 18-foot sailing kayaks on a quest to surf remote waves. What starts as a novel idea to accomplish the sailing feat soon evolves into a rare opportunity to connect on a deeper level with the entire coastline of Tasmania for a few months of slow travel. The film portrays the uniquely diverse landscape, wildlife, and ocean energy of this rugged island coast while connecting with people that share their love for the land in the great Southern Ocean.
That looks like hard living. That looks difficult, man.
It's no joke, dude. There's 18-foot kayaks trying to circumnavigate the entire island of Tasmania. Look at this thing. So they're each on separate ones. Torren's on his own and Ishka's on his own. Ishka's, of course, trying to document it, but Torren actually has a couple of cameras on his boat as well. So they sail basically 8 hours a day, and then they find a beach that they can go in and camp at. And along the way, of course, surf incredible waves.
That just looks so grindy.
It's gnarly.
It is gnarly.
So I'm a huge fan, of course, of these films that Neat Essentials puts out. They don't do it often. It seems to be about every 18 months or 2 years. I said the other week that John Florence with his Vela series is putting out the best surfing happening anywhere on the internet, and I stand by that. But there's nobody doing better cinematic storytelling than what's happening with Neat Essentials and what they put out. These films could easily exist as a travel documentary on Netflix or Hulu or anywhere. Like they could sell it as a film to one of those companies. This is how high quality the filmmaking and production quality is.
Oh, God, these waves are... Oh, does he pull that off? Oh, my God, I thought he was a goner.
I know, that was nuts.
Torren Martyn. That's not ship sterns, is it?
I don't know where it is, Scott.
Good answer.
That gives you a more pulled back angle.
I think that's ship sterns, but I don't know.
It's not.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Anyways, phenomenal film. It is now available on YouTube. Neat Essentials, I think, had it on their website for 3 days exclusively, so we might still be in that 3-day window. So go there for sure, and then after that, it'll be available on YouTube with all of their other incredible films. And fantastic to see Torren again. We haven't seen Torren in a while. He actually moved to Tasmania for a little bit slower pace of life to get out of Byron with his wife and child, and is killing it down there. So,
what do they eat? Like, do they just like roll up on a beach in the middle of nowhere and start killing birds and stuff? This feels very survival-like.
They're fishing along the way.
They're just eating whatever blood meat fish that they happen to catch. Oh my God!
They brought provisions, and then they obviously are fishing along the way, and they stop in little towns and stuff like that to resupply.
That's so gnarly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tip of the cap to those two, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible. So beautiful film. Go watch it. It is my must-see moment presented by Trees Wax.
All right. Well, look, we've said a lot. We've had. Oh, what do you got?
One more thing. I just got to remind you guys, Surfrider Foundation, go buy some merch, man. Surfrider.org, of course, become a member, but go buy some merch. I've got a water bottle right here. I've got the clothing. I wear it almost every single day, and it supports, of course, the good work that Surfrider's doing.
Do they make cashmere sweaters, Surfrider?
I'll advise them that they should, because I know that's your exclusive clothing.
Well, look,
Do you limit it just to sweaters? I expect you to be in cashmere pants at this point, cashmere suit when you go out on the town.
Let's just keep it at sweaters for now, and I'll fill you in further later on.
Okay.
Until next time, David, adios and aloha.